What up? What up, man? Shout out to everybody tuned in. It's your host, Son of a Jones, one half of Enveonline.
Other half, A.S.A.S Johnson.
Yo, man, shout out to everybody, man. We back after the Thanksgiving holiday, so I hope everybody enjoyed their holiday out there.
Lots to talk about.
You know,
Episode number 12.
Episode number 12.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just celebrated a birthday a few days ago.
Yes, sir.
Officially an old head. Gray hairs popping up everywhere. You know, so I'm thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, we cover a lot with sports, Division I, basketball, football, do fashion, politics, current events, hip hop, everything. We try to stay relevant. So we're going to start off. We're going to get straight to it. Let's jump straight into CAA conference, dealing with the football side.
Going where we're appreciated and not tolerated. I'm going to keep saying that.
So the last game we went to before the Thanksgiving holiday, so it was about a week and a half ago, was the last game with Albany versus Rhode Island. Just in general, shout out to every team in the CAA conference. Shout out to Albany. Shout out to Rhode Island. Shout out to all the teams. But that was the last game that me and you went through. Rhode Island pulled out the victory. But if you were there, the first quarter, what were you seeing as a fan of football?
I was seeing Albany like do their thing. Like they came out and struck.
If you were there when Albany struck with that pass, when Pfefferberger hit Jackson, number 10, I forget his last name, Jackson Parker. I was like, oh, here we go. They going out swinging.
Yep.
Then I don't want to give excuses. Maybe it was the cold weather. Maybe it was the jitters. But a well-coached Rhode Island team turned it around very quickly and started answering every single drive that Albany put together defensively and offensively. Right. So what did you like about that game? I don't want to say dislike because it's not, you take lessons away from games like that. Yeah. So give me some of the takes that you got out of that game.
And salute to Albany because they had nothing to really play for. They could have just said, let's go out here, let's just play and just get this game over with. They basically played like it was their Super Bowl, like they were coming with their A game, and that's exactly what they did. But let me also say this, and it's not a shot at Albany, but Rhode Island, they were one of my picks. It's like one of my picks to make it.
Yeah, they were. The first podcast.
Yeah.
Before we started back in June.
Yeah.
You listed 4 teams, if I remember correctly. I want to say New Hampshire was one of them. Rhode Island. I think you probably said Villanova and somebody else.
Yeah.
But Rhode Island was in there. Go ahead.
Yeah, and they kind of showed in the first quarter that Albany was fighting them. But it seemed, I think, what game did we go? We went to, there was another game that Rhode Island played. I want to say it was Maine. It looked like Maine was holding them in the first quarter. And then for whatever reason, it's like Rhode Island takes your best shot and then they just start doing what they know how to do best. And they put up points. And you can't stop them. Like there's nothing you can do. It looks like it's a slow start and then all of a sudden they take off.
Well-coached teams don't do that. And then they had 18 seniors. Shout out to all the seniors on senior day.
Right. So Kasim Hill, Ed Lee,
Marquise DeShields, who's declaring for the NFL draft. So I want, real quick, not to cut you off, shout out to that running back. He's a very dynamic running back in the CAA. Salute to that young brother, and good luck on his future endeavors. I know he's going to eat in the NFL.
Facts. And it's a lot of things too about them. They also did what they know how to do best. They put up 21 points in the second quarter, and it seemed like I don't think Albany could ever really recover from that. And that's just Rhode Island being Rhode Island. Because after that it was 14-14 in the next half, the second half of the game, but it was too late. And Rhode Island's defense, credit to Rhode Island's defense, because I know that they had some down times this season, but they were good enough to get stops and stop teams when they needed to be stops.
How many block punts? Was it 3 block punts? And one of them went back the other way?
Yeah. Then the kid ran it back for a touchdown.
I want to say number 9.
Yeah. So it just goes to show, man, like they were right there. I think Rhode Island went into that game. I don't think we understood it at first, but I think Rhode Island went to that game thinking, If we want to make the playoffs, we're going to have to make a statement. That game, they made a statement. And I think that when they walked off that field, they thought they was going to be playing the following Saturday.
Everybody did. If you're a fan of Rhode Island, after seeing that performance, you said, yo, we're going to get a bid into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, me and you spoke about this. We think they got robbed. Because who got in? Delaware got in?
Yeah, Delaware got in. Delaware. The reason why I think Rhode Island didn't get in, and I don't agree with it, but I see their point. They're looking at 3 losses that Rhode Island had. It was a Delaware game early in the season, which was 42-21. So it wasn't like they had like a tough, like it was a tight game. Then they lost to William and Mary at the last few seconds in the end zone. William and Mary got stops. Then there was a New Hampshire game, and even though they shouldn't have lost that game because that was a bad call, that receiver didn't catch that ball. So I mean, I personally think just based off of that, you kind of wanted to give them the bone and like, yo, because we dropped the ball on this, maybe we need to get you and let you in and compete for a playoff because they're in. Yeah. If they get that game, them and New Hampshire was going to be in anyway because New Hampshire had the conference. They kind of had made a statement. But Delaware probably wouldn't have got in. And people still felt like, from the outside looking in, from outsiders I talked to, they still felt like they should have gotten in because Delaware lost that game, the last game of the season. They didn't take care of business. Rhode Island did. So I don't understand how it is. But, I mean, shouts out to Delaware. They went into the playoffs. They done won their first game in the playoff championship bracket. So, salute to them. They did what they said they were going to do. I mean, it don't look bad either way for the conference, but
we big Rhode Island. Well, at least I am big Rhode Island fans. Man, yeah. I was rooting for them kids.
Yeah, so I think they kind of got gypped about that. Let me say this too, man. Do you want to say something?
Oh no, I just want to say, did you want to talk about the flip side of Albany, what's to come next season, or do you want to go somewhere else?
I just want to stay Rhode Island real quick. I think who doesn't get credit when you see an offense like Rhode Island that can strike and do what they want at any time. You got guys like DeShields, who's a 1,000-yard rusher. The receiving core is always crazy.
Ed Lee,
Kasim Hill, very prolific quarterback, tough guy too. Nobody sees.
Took a lot of hits.
Yeah, and especially in that Albany game. But the offensive line.
Offensive line is monstrous.
When your offense is creating numbers like that, your offensive line is automatic. So when you got guys, and I'm going to name them, that probably don't get enough shine or credibility like they should.
The O-line and D-line never gets credit, but go ahead.
Guys like Lorenzo Thompson, Adam McKenna, Sebastian, I hope I'm not butchering his name. DeSantis, yes. Okay. Yeah. Lorenzo, Sebastian Della Sodes, Nick Correa, I can't say it right, but AJ Cornelius. Those guys are
shout out to Johnny Cornelius.
Yeah, AJ Cornelius, yeah. Yeah, so I say okay. I was just gonna say AJ. But those guys definitely were definitely the wall. And you see, if you go look at Rhode Island's offensive stats, you can see why. It's hard to beat them. Those guys when their offense is putting up points like it's putting up, I mean, they kind of do what they know how to do best. And I don't think they get any type of credibility or shine. Just like how the defense, even though they don't have a shutdown defense, they have a defense that gets stops, and it is better from when we first saw Rhode Island. When we first started covering CAA, I remember Rhode Island used to score like 31 points, and they would lose 32-31. Like, they couldn't get stops. So with the defense they have now, they get stops. So, I mean, the 35-21, 35-14 games I've seen. And the thing about it is they beat teams that they're supposed to beat. That's the difference between this year, last season, and as opposed to the other seasons when we first started covering CAA. They're beating teams they're supposed to beat. And even the teams that they're competing with to see if they got over the hump, they're winning those games too, with the exception of the Delaware game. But, William Mary it took them to the last minute for William Mary to beat them. And then they got gypped in New Hampshire. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it is what it is, man. So like I said, they're on another level. We'll see how they be back next year. They got a lot of people leaving.
Seniors and transfer students.
Yeah, so we'll see how Fleming rebounds too. I'm pretty sure he'll figure it out. So that's just what I wanted to say. And real quick, the KAJ Cornelius, he's I think when I look at the film, he kind of stands out. Like even with the clips you see that we put on social media,
Kid is a monster on the O-line.
Yeah. You see people flying. He makes them fly like Superman, or you just see them. You see defensive players come off their feet. Man.
Yeah, shout out to the whole O-line, man.
Yeah,
I definitely don't get enough credit for all teams.
Yeah.
Real quick before we touch on Albany. So we talked about the playoffs, how Delaware got in and they won their first. So the next round of the playoffs, New Hampshire versus Holy Cross, Gardner-Webb versus William and Mary, Delaware versus South Dakota State, and Richmond versus Sacramento. Out of the teams that I named, who do you expect to advance to the final, the next round?
No disrespect, but I really feel like New Hampshire will. They showed me a lot with Fordham, because even though
Fordham is a high power offense,
they remind me of they're like Rhode Island, the prequel. Like they can put up like 40 points and they still lose 52-49. That's Fordham's problem. They can't stop nobody. They just might get a stop at the end, different the score. But the thing about New Hampshire is, what it showed me to them is that how they stood up and they stood on the ground and did, they ran the ball. They played them tough and physical. But
real quick, when we talk about running, that running back for New Hampshire, off my head, Dylan, I can't pronounce your last name, but number 20. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, my God.
I don't know if he's a junior. I don't know if he's a senior.
He's a junior.
Okay.
A sophomore, junior, one of them two.
Your coach is going to kill me for saying this, but if you are eligible for the NFL draft, you need to sign up. That is a monster running back.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look like it until he gets downhill. His speed and strength, I saw firsthand when he came to Albany, but the two running backs that I like out the CAA conference is Marquise DeShields. I'll say 3 because we're from Albany. Todd Sibley from Albany, but number 20 from New Hampshire, Dylan. That kid is a monster, man.
Super monster.
So I'm with you on that, and I expect that his running game is going to help them advance. But go ahead.
Yeah, facts. Him, and then there's also William and Mary. I think they're going.
So you going with New Hampshire
and William and Mary?
We gonna put some cases of dew on it, man.
Yeah, man.
I
got you. Yeah. I think those two, William and Mary. Yeah, Mike London, the head coach from William and Mary. I think he beat a Division I team this year, not mid-major, like major Division I team. He William and Mary came out. They have changed that culture. Even when he first got there, they were playing like in the middle of the pack. Usually when coaches first get there, they're trying to learn. They're going through a rough season. They're trying to rebuild or whatever. Not with William Mary. William Mary was in the middle of the pack when he got there and put to implement that program. They got into the middle of the pack. Then they started being looked at. They were putting up points, but they weren't getting stops. And they were another team. They're starting to figure out how to end games. You know how like you talk about Albany, like Albany has to learn. They were learning how to close out games.
Okay.
You saw it against Rhode Island. You saw it against in other teams, and they were beating teams they were supposed to and winning games that you didn't think they could win. They had a tough schedule this year, and they came out and I think they're 9-1 or 10-1. But they doing this. It's not a doubt. There's not a doubt. There was no doubt that they should be in the playoffs.
So salute to all the teams that are advancing in the CAA playoffs. Salute to all the student athletes, man. It's going to be interesting coming down.
Yeah.
So the last part of this that we got to talk about is the team that we cover in our backyard, Albany.
Yeah.
They finished 8-3. And let me say this. First of all, salute to all the student athletes and salute to the seniors that are seniors and grad students that are finishing their degree and finishing and going on to the next phase. Their record to me, and I know people say this all the time, is not indicative to who they are, because there was a couple of games where one call, I believe, could turn the tide, and they could easily, I'll be fair and say, 5 or 6 win season.
Mm-hmm.
So I know they're 3-8, but in reality,
that's what I predicted.
I'm gonna mention these two games. Obviously, the Hampton game was a meltdown.
Yeah,
You should have won the Hampton game at home. The Monmouth game, and I know how the game started, but there was a specific play that I caught in 4K where they caught the safety. I believe number 41 or 42 had a safety, and they just like, oh, no safety. And then the very next play, the kid runs 96 yards, and that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Those are just two games in particular. I can mention 3 other games, but I'm just going to be fair. They should have easily been 5 or 6-1 season, and that puts them in the middle of the pack of the CAA, especially with those 2 games that I mentioned in our conference games. Where do you think Albany goes from here?
I think they got to fix that defense.
Okay.
Offensive wise, they'll be okay because the receivers will. Is it Wilkes? The one in Monmouth when he got the concussion.
No.
That's what's his name.
So there's 2 receivers. There's more than 2 receivers. Please forgive me, but the 2 receivers that stand out, 3. Number 13, pardon me, I'm just going to say number 13. Julian Hicks is the one that got hit.
Yeah,
he's number 1.
Hicks.
And then Roy Alexander, who's number 2.
Those 2.
They have a monster receiving core.
They got the 2 receivers. The running back that's going to be coming behind him, I forgot his name.
Who's the running back that's going to be taking over for Todd Sibley?
It's just number
25?
I think so, 32. It's one of them. I'm not sure.
He played in a couple games.
Yeah. They'll be all right with the running game. They're going to miss Greeny, though.
Greeny's a senior. He's graduating.
I think if Greeny's out and this is his last year, they're going to miss Greeny.
Okay.
Greeny, that's a big loss because Greeny, even when you slow him down, he still gets yards.
The next game.
Right.
You remember that podcast that we did where they shut him? I forgot what game he was completely shut down. Was it Monmouth?
Yeah, Monmouth was the one that was giving him fits, yeah.
And then the very next game, even though they lost, he had like 3 touchdowns and went berserk. So
Greeny,
that's going to be a huge loss for you, Albany.
Yeah, Greeny's the go-to. He's like they Travis Kelce. Like you can just throw to that guy anytime.
But I will say this: number 13, number 10, Jackson Parker, Roy Alexander, number 2, and number 1, Julian Hicks. And then I want to say the other tight end. I forget his name, but he's number 87. They have a great receiving core and a good tight end. So I'm with you on that. But go ahead and speak to the defense.
They gotta do something with that defense. So I don't know. I saw with the all honors and all that stuff, but I mean it don't matter, man. That defense is bad. They can't cover. They get lit up in the backfield. It just is inevitable. It's like teams do what they want. They run it. They get physical with them. We saw with New Hampshire, Maine got physical with them. Hampton wasn't scared. They went deep on them. There's something that
you think there's something that's missing. Is it on the line
missing.
or is it in the backfield?
I want to say more. I want to say on the line. The line. They got to fix the line. Fix the line first, and you can make the backfield work. Because even if you make the backfield work, if people know they can run on you, it's just going to be a long day no matter who you're playing. They need to fix the line. So Gattuso, he needs to figure out what he's going to do. Like, as far as defense-wise, he needs to figure that out. Offensive-wise, they're in sync. They're putting up 30 points a game.
Shout out to Reese Poffenberger, man.
That kid's a beast, man.
Well, how do you say it has no memory? So he'll have a play where you're scratching your head like, how did he throw that interception? And then the very next drive, when he gets the ball, he's lighting it up down the field to a Greeny or Julian Hicks or Roy Alexander. I think what I saw from him is him gain his confidence as the season went on, no matter whether Albany was up or down. So looking at the way his confidence built, if he's any bit of the competitor that I think he is, because I see he got some dog in him. If he's any bit of the competitor, he left that season set, we 3-8. I'm about to go hit the weight room. Nah, this ain't it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to hit the weight room. I'm going to be counting down the days to spring camp. I'm going to be counting down the days to summer camp. And as soon as the season start, I'm about to light. How how many rookie of the weeks that kid won? Like 7.
Yeah.
7? No, it was either 5 or 6. I'm exaggerating, but
no, I get it.
They practically was about to name the award after the kid. So watching him play, knowing that he's going to be back for you, Albany, whatever he does, if he stays healthy and just goes into the weight room like, yo, with this chip on his shoulder, watch out. I'm guaranteeing next year that kid averages 270 to 300 yards a game.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds crazy, but you have to watch this kid all season.
Mm-hmm.
With that receiving core around him and with his confidence and him coming into next year being mad, because you should be mad, 270 to 300 yards.
Mm.
Good luck if you're on the defensive end of that next year.
Yeah.
Shout out to all them kids, but go ahead.
No, I like I said, Sibley too. They're gonna miss him. Like I said, Albany just has to improve on building some type of defense and then closing out games. They'll be right up there competing for a playoff spot if they do that. If they don't, it's gonna be another long season.
I'm with you there.
So
if they can address the defensive pieces, then this could be a different conversation next year. And I know that sounds good, but they're one team that I saw. Usually when a team is like 2-9, 3-8, you're saying, damn, it needs a major overhaul.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel that way with them. I'm on there with you.
Yeah.
They patch those gaps. I could see them winning 6 or 7 games next season.
Yeah. So, okay. So yeah, and that's just what it is. Like I said, man, salute to Rhode Island football team. Salute to Albany football team. It was good watching them, seeing what they did this year. Like I said, they definitely did what they needed to do. Next year is a new year, and for Albany, it's back to the drawing board for Rhode Island and Coach Fleming. It's how can we keep this train running, with what we just built. I want to call audible real quick, and it's going to take less than 5 minutes.
Okay.
I remember us talking about something that's never said. So there's some hate going on, and we saw it in where I'm going with this is the HBCUs.
Uh-oh. Let me take a sip.
Yeah, you do that.
I like this.
Yep, audible's coming. So Deion Sanders, he beat
This
I
is
forgot
exactly where I wanted to go.
He beat Eddie Robinson Jr.'s team one time this season. And then he gave him some shove, and he did apologize, but then he said he's not the swag. Then the previous year, when the South Carolina State coach, he said that he was kind of opposed at first against the Celebration Bowl, the 2 HBCUs meeting, or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say that he finished this year 3-8.
Oh, did he?
In last place. Yeah. So when I look at the statistics, he finished 3-8.
The coach that was opposed to the Celebration Bowl between 2 HBCUs
Facts.
is 3-8 this year.
Yep. Last place in the conference.
Okay, go ahead.
North Carolina Central won the conference this year at 9-2. They were undefeated at home. So salute to them. Just want to say this. So I don't know what he was against. I don't know why these guys are feeling any type of way. I just know that prior to Deion being there was no pride of going to HBCU.
Oh, I love where we're going.
And doing that.
I so like this audible.
So I just want to say that salute to North Carolina Central, who never said anything like that and let that slide out their mouth. And I'm pretty sure that the Celebration Bowl, that will be televised on ESPN for the worldwide people.
For millions and millions of people
to see. Yeah.
And that's gonna put a light on HBCUs.
Right. Because the only thing that the HBCUs, if I remember when I was a kid, my grandfather used to turn on is it Southern versus Grambling?
Mm-hmm.
The Bayou Classic.
Yep.
So it'll be on NBC. That's it. I don't know nothing about no bowl games. I ain't know nothing about it. It was the same thing every year. SEC, Big 10, Big 12, all those conferences. But for the HBCUs, when Deion got in, I was kind of watching. Like, I'd be paying attention to him, but I was watching him too. Like,
my eyes
I wonder
lit
what
up.
he was going to do. So then, that first year they didn't win 6-5. But, it's his first year. And then next
What
year,
happened that second year?
yeah, they got it in, and he's down there, he's doing his thing. They win the SWAC, and then they go into the Celebration Bowl and lose to South Carolina State. But the platform and the stage that was on there, I think it did a lot. Now, fast forward, he goes in here undefeated, and now he's going to play Southern again for the SWAC championship, and I think he's going to face North Carolina Central in the Celebration Bowl. That's if they make it, whoever makes it.
Okay.
It's the stage. And I want to say for anybody that's hating on that situation, y'all a bunch of like haters. There's another word
we're gonna say this for YouTube because they like to censor and those strikes. So here's the terminology we're gonna use instead of using the word you want to use.
Yeah.
Go with me on this.
Yes.
We're gonna say they're off code.
Yeah, they're off code.
So anytime you want to say that word that starts with a C, we're gonna say they're off code.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So being that they're off code, and they had a lot of these coaches had opportunities. You didn't want to ingratiate yourself
in the culture.
With the culture. You wanted to go and, it ain't like this, and this is the way it's going to be, and this is what it is. And let me make this clear, because I'm seeing the thing about Deion leaving. And
we're going to get to that slowly.
Okay, all right. I'll leave that alone for now. Let me say this. When you start seeing the schools and you start seeing those people at the school, we start going to those, and that's where we start wanting to be. Mm-hmm. You need artists and stuff like that and all that. Wallow and Gilly and all them, they all go to Jackson State. Y'all not letting them come to Howard and North Carolina Central and all that and South Carolina State.
Azar, how many alumni is from Howard?
Hundreds, thousands.
Hundreds. In our culture and hip hop and music and sports, did they initiate themselves in the culture and say, hey, let's bring our camera phones and our media outlets and pack out Howard? Mm-hmm. Because for some reason, every time I turn around in our culture, Wallow and Gilly's in our media space right now in hip hop, and they're broadcasting locker room scenes. They're bringing the hip hop culture to Jackson State, which is all the way in Mississippi.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Facts. And it's just I just want to say salute to Prime. If he has to make the decision to leave, he has to make the decision to leave. It's going to be sad because I think the spotlight might go off a little bit. So all the people that say that they're SWAC, if he leaves, he leaves, I want to see what y'all going to do. And I promise I'm going to call you out if you don't.
Every single coach.
Yep, every single
coach that sat up there and threw subtweets and, he's not really SWAC. Because, I follow a bunch of HBCUs, not just the schools, but their social media influencer. Mm-hmm. And, they all take their slick shots. Y'all better hope Deion stays. Mm-hmm. Because if Deion decides to leave, and I can't tell him how to feed his family or what direction that he wants to go to, that he feels he's led. Mm-hmm. But if he leaves, that spotlight of HBCUs is going to be directly on y'all. I don't know if people are paying attention, and we're going to talk about this in the next topic dealing with HBCUs. There's somewhat of a renaissance right now.
Right.
Even with all the underfunding that HBCUs go through, even with the non-media coverage, because there's a lot of that non-media coverage, even on the small end.
Right.
Kids are still saying, you know what, I want to go to this HBCU or that HBCU for educational purposes or sports purposes. And now it's like a certain pride coming back. I'm officially the old head crew, so we remember a different world.
Right.
People, it's starting to feel like a different world.
Right.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, just Google a different world.
Yeah,
and
TV show, right?
Yeah. But there's that certain pride, like, yo, we're tuned in. Mm-hmm. If Deion decides to stay, which I hope he stays, you guys better thank him and this stay on code for the duration of his venture at HBCU, because what he's doing, we haven't seen this on the sports side. Mm-hmm. And even out of sports, probably since a different world.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's just, what I would like to see in response to that? I would like, it's not, because they're in the mid-majors of SWAC, they can't ever compete for a national championship. One of those conferences, I do get what the one gentleman was saying on Twitter, because you brought it to my attention. Like, we need to just
You said it first.
And create a super conference.
You said it first before him.
But if we create a super conference, and it could be, you know, whatever, HBCU East, HBCU West, we have 2 commissioners, right? Because I think they're concerned about the commission part of it. If we create a super conference, you have to let us in that major conference to compete for a championship. In other words, we're going to get the same type of attention and the same type of resources. Or what we'll do is we'll create our own conference and we'll
start
just
slowly picking away them
Yep.
top 5 kids.
Yep.
Because it's already happening.
Yep. And you can forget about you and your little Nick Sabans and your little Kirby Smarts and whatever, who clearly, I don't know about Nick Saban. He's never came out and said nothing, but clearly Kirby Smart has some good old boy behavior about him.
Nah, but didn't he throw a shot and somebody had to correct him about
Nick
his recruiting
Saban,
practice?
yeah,
so yeah, no, him too.
Saban
Him too.
Yeah.
He tried to get slick.
He clearly, they clearly got good old boy behavior in them. And if anybody knows what I'm talking about, you know, just type of good old boy behavior. It's kind of the rhetoric of what Trump and them is spewing. So I think that when you look at it, it's either you get down with us or we'll figure it out.
And that's why my selfishness hopes that he chooses to stay. Because for me right now, it's so much more than football. Because we're going to touch on the second part of the HBCU conversation.
Yeah.
Do you know the type of, I'm going to say it like this. If Deion chooses to stay and I can't count his bank account or talk about that because I never like doing that, for me, it's like that light on him is priceless. And I know that sounds crazy to say that because obviously I'm not nowhere in a position to turn down $10 million or whatever the number is. But do you know how many kids will look at that and be like, damn, Deion really said he's not going to Colorado State? Just think about that. Or whatever school, because he said it was other schools. He's just not going to put that business out there.
Right.
Deion Sanders said he's going to stay down here in Mississippi with us.
That would be powerful.
He ain't going over there.
Right.
What's that telling? What's that going to tell that 5-star athlete that's about to graduate this year or next year?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't need to go to boom. Maybe I need to look over there or there or there or these HBCUs. That's the power. And I, like I said, it's unfair for us as fans to put that on him. But man, oh man, as a fan, boy.
Yeah.
You going to get some people, and I know this might sound funny because this is crazy. You going to get some people tattooing Deion. If he ends, people got Eazy-E tattoos and NW. That's the type of power you're going to have if you decide to turn down on Power 5 schools and stick with us.
Right. And so you're going to have to draft out this conference.
And then you're going to have to draft out of us and get our kids to go to the NFL.
Right. Right.
Man. Boy, I might enroll in graduate school at it.
Yeah.
I'm already
just
looking right
now.
now.
Just to donate back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, I just wanted to throw that shot. I just want to say before we go on to the next topic, I can't wait till we go to the NFL. And that's all I'm going to say. Yeah. So what's the next topic that you want?
We're going to stick, because you threw that audible, we're going to stick in the HBCU lane.
Okay.
So obviously we just gave our spew on the sports side of it, but there's an academic and an admission side that's been in the news lately.
Yeah, really.
So there's a few HBCU schools, two notably, TSU, Tennessee State University, and North Carolina A&T. So the context around both of these schools academically and admission-wise came out. First, we're going to start with TSU. So TSU has, I guess went in front of, I don't know what to say, the legislators or whatever.
Yeah. And
they were grilling the hell out of the admission department, pretty much saying, why are you guys accepting so many students and you guys have a housing problem? And let me be fair, because I don't want to take away some of the kids' experience. So some of the students have reached out on social media and have talked about some of the L's of the HBCUs, of there being problems with housing and parking and so forth. I get that, and I'm not taking away your experience. But for it to get this far to where the legislators are grilling the heads of these HBCUs saying, well, we just don't know why you guys aren't turning away black students. We kind of feel like you're taking away black students out of other colleges. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's what that person said.
Yeah.
And the clip is out there. So if you're not understanding the context, just look up Tennessee State and what's going on. They were actually grilling them saying, well, don't you think this is taking away black students from other colleges? Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Wow. So
that's super crazy. That's super crazy.
I got some thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts on that.
I just don't understand. Well, one, it shows the power that you have, and Malcolm X has said this. And Martin Luther King has said this. Nation of Islam has made this clear. Like, if we stick together, we have the power. We have our own power. And when I say that, I don't mean that in it. See, the funny thing about it is with people of color that are not black, they always seem to say when we say we have a power, we're talking down about other people. No.
They try to say some reverse racism.
Well, what it is that the first thing you hear is that, why can't y'all just go get your own? Okay, well, we're going to our own. Why are you bothering us? Leave us alone. Because the reason why you feel comfortable poking, because we don't have any power. So if we have power and control, like how other people of other ethnicities, i.e. like who Kanye was talking about, then you wouldn't dare come over here poking. You know better, because you know the results of what's going to happen to you. So it's a thing of is that y'all come over here poking and feeling some type of way. Why? Because y'all going to lose your money? Well, that's what that was. That to me sounds like some Jim Crow.
Somebody did the math, and I want to say the math that I saw was like 2,000 students had either left the school in that area, in that Tennessee area. I forgot what the name of the school was, but when they did the math of the 2,000 students times the tuition, it was like a few $1 million.
Yeah.
Not to mention if this becomes successful moving forward, and I know, like I said, I don't want to take away certain kids' experience because they have a right to feel how they feel, but if Tennessee State and other HBCUs got the proper funding to correct those mishaps, now then they can go apply for grants and funding from the state and actually get funded for the problems that you guys are having. Because a lot of those issues are systematic. They're beyond underfunded. If they don't have proper funding for teachers, if they don't have proper funding for activities, for sports programs that we constantly hear about, then you're going to keep running into that brick wall of, oh, hey, there's lack of housing, or hey, their facilities aren't up to par. They get that funding. All that goes away within 3 to 5 years, like we're seeing in Jackson State. Now let's head over to North Carolina A&T.
Okay.
So there's an article in the Root about North Carolina A&T.
Who just won the meek. I'm going to keep saying that.
Shout out to them.
Over the South Carolina guy that didn't want to be known as Celebration Bowl. I'm going to keep talking about that. Go ahead.
But there was something. Let me see if I could pull it up while we're talking, because I want to be correct when I say this. But something along the lines of $2 million.
North Carolina Central. I'm sorry.
North. But it was something along the lines of something about them being penalized or losing $2 million of funding around the same issue. And I'm just like, wow, for lack of better terms, these HBCUs are trying to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and we're starting to slowly see them become successful, whether it's through the sports, whether it's through this HBCU renaissance. And now the states who are supposed to be funding these are saying, well, we don't think this is fair. So now it's not fair that we're figuring it out. Facts. What the hell does that sound like?
Sounds like Jim Crow. That's what it sounds like. Sounds like what we've been going through all these years, through our generations, through previous generations. That's what it sounds like. So if we're not waking up from this, I don't know what else is going to wake us up.
Okay, so I just pulled it up because I wanted to speak correct and exact. So North Carolina A&T is ordered to pay nearly $2 million due to large enrollment numbers from out of state.
They got to pay $2 million?
Just here, they're being fined because their enrollment numbers are up high from out of state.
But shouldn't they be getting money for that?
I'm going to say it slowly. A HBCU has high enrollment numbers.
Right.
So black people in state, black people out of state are finding their way to that HBCU for whatever reason, whether it's sports, whether it's academic, whether it's the Renaissance.
Right.
And the state of North Carolina or whoever's in charge of that said, we're going to fine you.
Wow. That's crazy.
Let me bring the camera closer.
Yo, guys, speak.
North Carolina A&T, due to high enrollment numbers from out of state, whether it's black people, people of color, or however you want, or whoever's going to this HBCU, their enrollment numbers are high. And the people in charge of the state funding said, we're going to fine you $2 million. What happened to pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Because these HBCUs are starting to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And now legislative law is starting to come in effect to penalize black people for pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. Are we in 1940 again?
Good question.
Let me put the camera back. I just thought that was important to bring up. Because with this renaissance, with this power, we're seeing once again, i.e. what happened when we built a lot of black towns back during Jim Crow, because it wasn't just Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was Wilmington, North Carolina.
Rosewood, Florida.
There was Rosewood, Florida, and there was a lot of black towns along the East Coast going down south to Florida. Every time we built them up, for some reason, a highway just magically appeared in front of the business section. Or certain people got chased out and the town got flooded and burned down. Now, instead of doing that, because you can't do that in 2022, well, how about we just fine North Carolina $2 million because that's going to hurt their budget somehow? I mean, maybe I'm just a conspiracy theorist. What do you think?
No, I think you're right. I think they're finding ways because, you know, it concerns them. If we put all our resources together and we say, look, we're gonna go over here, we don't need them, you know, the powers that be, the right wing people, then they start to get scared. You know what I'm saying? Like they feel some type of way because they feel like they're losing some type of control and power. You need to come to our school. You need to fall into debt. You need to fall into the hole. You need to learn how to work for us, but you don't need to learn how to work for yourself.
Or we just could keep it simple and look at Tuskegee.
Yeah.
And
that was crazy.
And what Frederick Douglass did with Tuskegee.
Yeah.
And how powerful Tuskegee University was in educating black people.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying.
That's a whole nother conversation.
I'm just not understanding why they're having an issue. Why do you even have time to do that? They don't seem to want to put Mitch O'Connell in front of there after all the stuff he says and does. Oh, I'm sorry, he's Kentucky.
It's not just that. Okay, so let me go here. I won't pitch your business out, but you went to a HBCU. I went to a PWI. I could talk about my experience. So when I talked about some of the students had valid experience with their HBCUs as they were rightfully so airing out, I had some of the worst experience with the administration at a PWI, which is now defunct. I graduated in 2011 before they closed their doors in 2016. I was supposed to graduate a year early in 2010. The admission office screwed that up with not scheduling me with the correct classes. They ended up giving me an extra class that I didn't need, had to pay them $3,000 back, which then held up my degree for umpteen years because I was a young 20-year-old kid that just didn't have $3,000 laying around.
Yeah, nobody does.
And then, you know, the other stuff with them eventually closing down because the lack of stuff that they were doing behind the scenes. You know, I don't understand how you're $60 million in debt when the tuition is $30,000 and your enrollment numbers was high every year. Sounds like a little bit embezzlement, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
You went to a HBCU, had a great experience, you graduated, so forth. So with the experience that I went through, I didn't see none of those PWIs because my PWI had high admission. Kids from the city used to leave the city and come to Long Island. It was like their getaway. they had high enrollment numbers because they were giving them HEOP. That's a whole nother discussion. But I didn't hear none of those PWIs in New York City or out of state be brought up saying, I don't understand how you guys have these high enrollment numbers. We're going to fine you $5 million.
Yeah.
And this is coming from somebody who went to a PWI that got defunct after a $60 million embezzlement. And I'll just say allegedly so I don't get sued, but a $60 million embezzlement came out and they went into black and had to close their doors, even though they had high enrollment numbers since the 90s.
That's crazy.
The math ain't mathing.
Yeah, yo.
But none of those PWIs that do this ever face this type of scrutiny. At least I don't see. I don't see these articles.
No.
Maybe they are behind the scenes, but I don't see them. Go ahead.
No, it's just, you know, as long as they have, this is basically saying we no longer have control, and we're wondering what you're doing that we're losing the control. That's what that boils down to. I don't know what they gonna do,
and this is why I said I pray. I pray that Deion.
Yeah.
You know, again, I know it's his decision to make, but as a fan on what we're going through, the type of power we will control if he decides to stay just a little bit longer, maybe an extra 3 years. Yeah. It will pay dividends, not just in sports, but with this type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got anything else to add?
Well, you see, in the balance off that, you know, Deion goes to, personally, I like to see him go to, because I think USF was one of the other teams that offered him a job, reportedly. But if he goes to Colorado, ain't nobody going to ever ask, like, why their enrollment's high. Nobody will ever ask that. So, you know, I just don't know. I don't know what you want them to do. Like, I don't understand. Like this is the thing. Like, we all just got to roll the dice. Like what Eddie George is doing at Tennessee State. Funny because he got there. He's probably part of the reason why they got high enrollment.
Oh,
so you know,
I didn't. You got 5 minutes to speak about that?
Yeah,
I didn't know it was Eddie George that was over there.
Yeah, he was coaching Tennessee State. They didn't do great, but they didn't do bad this year. It was middle of the pack, 5 and 6. They usually like bad, man.
Okay.
Tennessee State's usually bad. So I think he's building something up there. It's going to take time. He needs to have people to get around there. You know what I mean? I think Deion showed. If you ever go back and look at what Pete Carroll did for USC, Deion's doing that for Jackson State. You had like all the stars coming out to USC games. You know, it was fun. It was a fun mentality. You know, when you go to Saban and them, they're not doing that. But see, Saban gets the kids over there, and Kirby Smart gets the kids over there because they say, look, we can get you into the NFL. But if we have our own, then we can go roll over here. We don't need to go to Kirby Smart and Nick Saban. That's not shot at Nick Saban, you know, but Kirby Smart and them, you know, who says, you know, these kids should be in NIL deals, but he the first person to be catching a big contract. It's about power. And those coaches, you shouldn't want your kids to go play over there. You're going to make it to the NFL. Your talent overrides everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it is what it is. You're going to be able to do whatever you need to do. And I don't know what more needs to be told. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. You know, I just think we need to stay basic. What I would like to see, if they didn't want to do a super conference and say, look, we'll let you compete for a national championship in the NCAA rankings, take one of the HBCUs, put them into a major conference like the AAC, who else? AAC, SEC, Pac-12, Big 12, Pac-10, whatever, right? Take one of those schools and put them in one of those major conferences, and let's see what happens. Guarantee. If you put Deion ahead of that ship, I guarantee that they'll be up there knocking on the door every year. It'll, instead of being the Alabama Invitational, it'll be the Deion Sanders Invitational. That's how cocky and confident
that would be a power move if he does decide to do something. I would like to see.
Yeah, but they haven't put it in. And you know, that's another thing you gotta keep questioning. Why HBCU ain't in one of those major conferences?
Because once you're in those major conference,
You get
if
funding.
that's where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
You start getting invited to those bowl games, especially if you knock off a team.
Mm-hmm.
As we see in basketball, we just seen some mid-level Division I teams beat some big schools.
Yeah.
So if you start giving the HBCU
So
a
in
chance,
football, yeah,
and they start defeating teams, now they're getting extra funding. They're getting more publicity. Certain 4- and 5-star recruits start saying,
mm-hmm.
I wanted to go to Syracuse, but that looks cooler.
Facts. Super facts.
There's so much more with this. Like I said, we'll be on the lookout for Deion's decision.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's going to wait till after the season. Who knows? Deion, man, we're rooting for you either way.
Facts, Prime.
Either way, Prime, Coach Prime, we're rooting for you.
Yeah.
But I ain't going to lie, the selfish part of me, just hope you stay a little bit longer, man, because there's a bigger goal attached to football that I think you know that you're calling this for.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Let's get to the next segment. And unfortunately,
Where are we going?
we got to go to the good brother, Stephen A. Smith.
Oh, boy.
Can you come in front of the congregation, sir?
Oh, my
We
God.
need you to step in front of the congregation.
Yeah.
I know you got millions of followers with a blue check by your name, but you know you done messed up, right?
Facts. Super facts.
So I want you to lay out the context of why we're bringing brother Stephen A. Smith in front of the congregation.
So your man, right, S.A.S, Stephen A. Smith, he comes out. So, and that's a whole nother conversation we'll have later. There was a picture that was leaked by the Washington Post, and we're going to cover this from so many angles. And it showed Jerry Jones in a mob full of white men, young white men, that were in front of and trying to barricade or trying to block young black boys from going to a desegregated school that they didn't want desegregated. When he was asked about it, he said, and I quote, "I was just there to observe. I was just there to watch. I wasn't really there participating. I was 14. I didn't know any better." To the equivalent of that, that's what he said. We all, Sam Acho says something about it on his media platform. A few other people said something about it in the media platform. I don't think Shannon and Skip talked about it, which was kind of funny. I didn't hear two peeps out of them. Anyway, Stephen A. Smith gets up there, and the minute he talks, you think that he's going to say what you think he's going to say.
Well, no, he tried to lighten the blow first and talk about
time out.
Okay.
I know where you're going with this. But he said, well, I'm upset, but not for the reasons you think. So I'm like, oh, okay. So he going to get this from another angle. He says, I don't like that they put that picture out because I wouldn't like somebody putting me out there.
False equivalent. Go ahead, but I got a retort.
Just showcasing of what you were doing at the age of 14. Would you want anybody to know what you were doing at the age of 14?
Let me know when you're going to throw me the alley.
I'm going to throw it soon. But this is the thing. I just was, my jaw dropped. They paying you. What check did he cut for you to get up there and talk like that? Come on, son. That's a snub job. That's one. But it was so shocking that he made the comment. And just he knows better. He knows better. So
Remember,
as much
we're
as
gonna
he
stick with the term off code.
Off code. So as much as he got off code and short off code, and then he tried to convince Akko and Bart Scott, well, now that I'm listening, it seems like something's a little fishy because it came out of. Well, I don't care where it came from. It's wrong. He is wrong. And let me make this clear. Are we really surprised? If Robert Kraft, let me say this, and I'm going to say that name. That's another one. If we found some emails showcasing Robert Kraft saying some racist words or behavior, I would not be shocked. If Arthur Blank, who I'm a very fan of the Falcons, Falcons are my favorite team, I would not be shocked. We don't have any black owners in the team. Black coaching is horrific in hiring. Jerry Jones, who looks like he screams good old boy behavior in his presentation and his look, was seen clearly. You could tell he was down with this. This is what he likes. I don't want to hear that he paid. And it's always the NAACP comment. Oh well, he helps a lot of black athletes and he paid a lot of black people. But it's funny. I don't really see a lot of black people in his office. And I don't see a lot of black people in his press box unless it's former players. Really don't. So I don't really care about, he talking about They posted up when he was 14. Come on, man. We ain't talking
Just
about
throw
he
me
was a
the
stick-up
alley.
kid. We ain't talking about like he did something with some chick that he shouldn't have been doing. We ain't talking about that. We talking about this is how he really feels, and this is something that's a representation of what we already knew and what we've seen from him from day one. So for you as a man that you didn't step up and say and speak for us the way you should have spoke, you sat out there and tried to reword it another way, which you had clearly have gotten paid for that. You got a check cut for you for that. You just need to stop. Stop. Just let it go. You look crazy. And I saw the comments, and we weren't the only ones that felt the way we felt. Trust me when I tell you. A lot of people looking at him like, we know you sold your soul for those comments alone. But I'm going to let it go to you. I'm just going to say you're off code. He's playing himself. And you know what's funny? Let me go here. There's another person on that show that anytime it's about something about a woman, they jumping up and down and hooping, hollering and cheerleading. Oh my God, you need to be brought to your knees and you need to be held accountable. What about him? I ain't see you open your big mouth about that. You sat there and kept quiet like a mule. So I'm trying to figure out what check is he cutting to these people that y'all just sat there and sold your soul and played yourself like that. He ought to be ashamed of himself, man. And he a father. He should be ashamed of himself from all angles. I don't care who he is that and who's offended by it. As a man, he should be. As a man and a father, period, he should be ashamed of himself. You playing yourself. You making yourself look like a clown. So there go the alley-oop to you. That's a representation of how I feel about it. As for black men, you look bad. Period.
That's what I was waiting for you to say. You said all the man and the father and all that stuff, which is clearly because me and you are men, me and you are fathers.
Yeah.
And you're 1,000% correct.
Facts.
But
Thank you.
You just threw in the word at the end of your soliloquy that should have been first is he's a black man. So me and you had many podcasts. We're only on 12, but we talked about a lot of black topics. And there's something I said twice. And I'm going to bring it to brother Stephen A. Smith. I know more than basic Black American History 101. When I hear some of these people make these comments and they are as educated as they are, because he went to a HBCU. He's very educated. I just sit back and wonder, how are these grown people in their 50s still not educated on basic Black American history? Why am I saying that? As a person who's a Black American, who has family from roots from the South, from Mississippi, who knows not just my family history, but just a general overalization of what we were going through during Jim Crow. The reason why he messed up when he made that comment, well, he was just 14 and it's not right. First, it was a false equivalent, brother Stephen A. Smith. It was a false equivalent. I can't show me 36-year-old Deshaun 14, whatever the math is, when I was 14, and compare it to a Jerry Jones back in Arkansas in 1950.
Wow.
You don't want to know why that's a false equivalent? Back when I was 14, the thing that I probably was doing was listening to Dipset or whatever I was doing running around in high school. Back what they were doing in 1950 in Arkansas was what that picture showed. Going through desegregation. It was very common. That wasn't the only picture. There's hundreds of pictures at other schools in Texas and all throughout the South of Black people being tormented when that first happened. And let me go here. I had a lot of stuff to do, so I didn't get the graphics that I wanted to, because I was going to bring some graphics for this to make it even more. There's a lot of pictures from the Jim Crow South, and maybe it's good that I didn't bring, because I would have to add a trigger warning. But unfortunately, during that time period, there's pictures floating around of our ancestors being hung and burned, and people standing around looking, watching. And it's not no conspiracy theory, but those pictures were used as postcards in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and even 60s. You want to know what I want to say? A lot of those people in those pictures didn't look like 50-year-old men. Some of the people in those pictures look 14, brother Stephen A. Smith.
Preach, dude.
That's why we need to see images of him and other people in position of power, whether they're lawmakers, whether they're lieutenants on the police department, whether they're sitting on a school board, or whether they're billionaire owners who are in their 70s or 80s. That's why it's relevant to see pictures from their past, not to bring in dirt because of cancel culture, as he tried to dumb it down to, this is this cancel culture. No.
Mm-hmm.
These are remnants of the Jim Crow South.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why it should have never come out your mouth, because anytime we talk about history, what do they say to us, That happened so long ago.
Yeah.
Why can't y'all let it go?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. My dad is 57 years old. He was born in Mississippi at the tail end of Jim Crow. He's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother is 75, born in Mississippi. She's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Whole bunch of family older than her in their 80s who are still alive, born in that time period. Point I'm making is, as black people, we all got family in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who was born through that time period, who lived through that time period, who went through those desegregated schools, who had to drop out and work in the field.
Yep, my grandparents.
My great aunties and uncles, my grandparents, who lived through that, who are still alive.
Mm-hmm.
These people aren't dead and gone, 20 years removed.
Facts.
They're still with us. We still can pick their brain and ask what they were doing in 1950 when they was in high school or not in high school. So that's why it hurts when we go through that and we got somebody speaking for us talking about, oh, that's not fair. This feels like cancel culture. This is American history that deals with us. Mm-hmm. And you try to dumb it down to cancel culture and what we were doing at 14 years old. This is what I keep saying on this podcast.
Wow.
A lot of the people that speak for us don't know basic Black American history, and it's irritating my left nutsack.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yo.
The reason why I want to see these pictures of not just Jerry Jones, because then maybe it will help me understand your unfair hiring practices in the NFL when we talk about why aren't there a lack of representation of Black coaches and Black owners.
Mm-hmm.
What about the politicians who keep signing these laws like Mitch McConnell? How does Mitch McConnell look like a young 50-year-old dude, or does he look like an 80-year-old man,
Okay, 80-year-old man.
Okay, so what time period did he live through?
Through the segregated South, segregated times, racist times.
So wouldn't that kind of make sense to understand what he was going through during that time, to understand the laws that he is passing now? Wouldn't that kind of correlate? What about the police, those police chiefs who are still didn't retire yet and they're in their 70s, and then you look in their certain police departments to see the corruption? Wouldn't it help to know if, hey, we just found a picture of this when he was 20 and this is what they were doing back in the 60s? Mm-hmm. Or is that just cancel culture when it's dealing with Black Americans?
Right. Facts.
That's why it didn't make no sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not just calling you out for the sake of clicks and, oh, this sounds like a hot topic. You were clearly off code, and as educated as you are, you sound like you didn't go to a HBCU, or you're just not in tune with basic Black American history. Mm-hmm. And it was so dangerous for you to make that comment because we're going through a time with CRT where they're trying to pass and take our history out of school.
Yep.
Sorry, this needs to be front and center every time it deals with us. Because when we are harmed in the public media, you said something last time, we keep letting them off the hook.
Yep.
Remember you said something to that degree?
Facts.
When we get offended, we kind of figure out a way to talk around it.
Yeah.
Oh, it isn't that bad. Maybe we're overreacting.
No.
Oh, it's cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine going to a living relative that's in their 70s and telling them, hey, we found pictures of this person and that person that was tormenting y'all and da-da-da-da, but yo, it's not that big of a deal. It's cancel culture. Man, the elder probably yoke you up and smacked it.
You know what he said that bothered me? Not to cut you off. I think it was Jerry Jones. He said something to the fact, we just happened to be there. We was just there to be there. What was you doing there?
Come on,
What was you doing there?
This is why I brought up the pictures of the lynchings of us during that time period.
Like, no,
all those people standing around. What was they doing there?
They was observing, enjoying it. Yeah. So it's the same thing with him. That's why he like, yo, I was just there. No, you wasn't, man.
You can see the context of that. Go Google that picture.
I saw it.
There's people there with cameras. There's people there mugging.
You know who I want Stephen A. Smith to talk to? Those young Black men that were sitting up there getting blocked. Go talk to them. And then you tell me how you feel the way you feeling right now. I'm going to say it again. I don't care how he feel, and I don't care about nothing about him. We don't ever cross paths, but even if we did, so what? Long story short, I wish we was both younger so we could deal with it like grown men. Let me say this. Like, you saying what you saying, you ought to be ashamed as a father, as a son, or whatever you call it, as a man, period, for that comment alone. Go talk to those black men that were blocked out of that school that day.
There's a bunch of black men still alive that was desegregated.
I understand it, but specifically those men, I want you to go talk to them and tell them that thing that you, and talk that off-code behavior that you was talking that day on First Take. Go talk to them and tell them that. It's kind of like with Deshaun Watson. Mad Dog was like, if I had to talk to Deshaun Watson, I would make him watch the HBO thing where the girls were talking about how they felt with what he did. And then I would ask him, now, tell me they're lying. So I would like to ask Jerry Jones and maybe Stephen A. Smith, how can I put this? The Django characters. That's my best way of putting it. And go talk to those young black men that were blocked off. Tell me how you feel. I want to see how brave you're going to be to go talk to them. Make sure their family's around too. I want to see how bad your mouth is then.
Their grandkids that are alive.
Yeah, looking at you.
Their kids that are alive.
Facts, thank you. And then looking stupid. How you looking like Samuel L. Jackson of Django. That's how you look. That's the best way I can put it without saying what I really want to say. So, but I'll give you right back to you.
Nah, you took the words and you just said it from an angle that I didn't think of. Mm-hmm. Those black men could be alive if they're in their 70s or 80s, but even more important, their descendants. They darn well probably have kids, nieces, nephews, and grandkids that are alive. How do you think they felt when they watched that, for you to limit that time in their father, grandfather's life as a cancel culture moment? Oh, it's not fair to bring up a picture from that. Yeah, the hell it is, because that's what we've been through, and that's what we're still going through.
Yeah. Right.
There's a bunch of billionaire owners, not just in sports, but in various corporations, that we want to know where did they get their money from. That's a whole nother topic we don't got time for right now.
Yeah, let's not get started on that. Or as they say, as the cops always say, follow the money.
I used to live in Long Island for a very long time. And you know what they call Long Island? A lot of towns you drove through, old money.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to say it slowly. I used to live in Long Island a very long time. And there was a lot of towns you used to drive through, and they used to say that's old money. They ain't mean from 1960. And I'll leave that there.
Facts.
I think this is a very important, not just for Stephen A. Smith, but for us. When stuff like this happens, it needs to be an outrage, no matter how small your platform is or how big your platform is. We got to stop excusing this every time we get harmed from stuff like that. That's not no small thing. DSEC, seriously, you know how many family members that I've talked to, whether they're now gone or alive, that told me they couldn't even finish school because of the time period of what they were going through?
It was bad. Very bad.
Like, I have a lot of family members in their 60s and 70s that are still alive that, we only could finish 6th grade because it just made sense to help the family out and sharecrop. Still alive. They in their 70s. They don't got dementia. They really remember that shit.
Yeah. Yep.
So, like I said, let this be a learning moment for Brother Smith, whether you care or not, because you got so many Twitter followers or whatever. We don't care about that. But any person that speaks out on our behalf about our history, please come right into Zach and know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
You got any more to add on this?
Just a clown. That's all I'm going to say about that. When it comes to that topic, he is a clown. Very educated, very smart. And that's why I think it's making me look at him crazy, like you know better. And you from New York, so you know better. You know better. I'm reading sports-wise. Like I said, he a smart dude. He's not stupid. He's educated, man. I know I'll be calling names, but everything aside from this topic, he the dude. But on this, I got no respect for you, none whatsoever.
Epic fail.
Super fail. Embarrassment is the word. Period.
So you want to piggyback and go to Jerry Jones since we're already here?
Yeah, did you want to talk about Jerry Jones? I didn't.
Okay. We could talk about something else.
No. Did you want to talk about Jerry Jones? We could talk about
Nah, fuck him.
Yeah. Let me say this about Jerry Jones. The last thing, I think he was asked about, minority hiring in the NFL, and he said that we have failed. And the reporter asked him, well, what can you do to fix it? And he didn't have an answer. He just didn't really have an answer.
He didn't have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He seems to have an answer when they want to play on the field, though, and he wants to cut him a big check. But he ain't got no answer for nothing else in the office or the coaching staff. Because clearly, you hired Jason Garrett. You hired, what's his name? What's the coach's name now? I forgot his name. The Green Bay Packers former coach, which he's doing a great job now. Dan Quinn all of a sudden is a defensive guru. That's funny because when he was in Atlanta, he was a horrible defensive court guy. So I don't. I don't know.
Man, that's my NAS ticking off.
Okay.
Or no, maybe.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay. Either way, like it's just he's just whatever, man. He is what he is. We all know what he is. I do want to piggyback off into something though that kind of relates to that. So in NFL, as of lately, since the last time, there's been so much that's going on, but this is where I'm going to pick up at. So Jeff Saturday, former NFL analyst for ESPN, he got hired as the Indianapolis Colts offensive, head coach because of his relationship with owner Jim Irsay. Now, this is where I want to go with this because it's just killing me. So Jim Irsay, after he gets up there on a mic and talks about how Daniel Snyder needs to go because he's a bad representation of the league. Mind you, after everything Irsay has done as far as with his alcoholism, his throwing his players under the bus, his throwing his coaches under the bus, he's now went out and embarrassed himself. And when he let go of Frank Reich, let me say this, let me address that part of the element first. You fire Frank Reich, right? You let him go. You were in second place in the conference behind Tennessee Titans. Right? Jacksonville, they're rebuilding. They're just playing. They're trying to see where they're going to go. Houston is just in a horrific situation. We're going to talk about that in a minute. You fired Frank Reich, right? You let it be what it was. So then because you don't give anybody else a chance, you don't give any coach a coaching color chance, you go and get your drinking buddy, Jeff Saturday. And you put him as the head coach. He has no head coaching experience, had no desire to be a head coach. You called him and said, I need you to run this team right now. Really? Really? But you on the mic saying that Daniel Snyder is a worse representation, and look at what you doing. That was like the most come
hypocritical.
On, man. Like really? Like you a clown, man. So it just made me look. In the first game, of course, Jeff Saturday won. Hurrah, Ichio, right?
Then they displayed the Steelers?
Yeah, they got beat. I think last week, the week before, they got beat. Interesting. So Jeff Saturday hasn't really changed anything. He has them playing hard. Frank Reich had them playing hard. What I had a problem with, and this is the major issue, is that you didn't give, and we all know what's going to happen, whether Saturday plays or not. Like Saturday, let's just say this. If Saturday makes it and they look competitive, he'll keep just Saturday on for staff and he'll say, look, I want you to coach the team or I want you to be office. Saturday's going to be good. Or he can go back to ESPN and do an analyst for the NFL. I mean, analyst for about the NFL for ESPN, right? If he has an opening head coaching opportunity because Saturday is just not going to be there next year, I can assure you the coaching, it will not be a highly qualified coach of color that he will get. He'll be like that idiot in Carolina that says, I want somebody I can relate to that looks like a slob and slobs on my shirt and leaves stains on their shirt because that worked out, didn't it? Worked out real well. So my point is, and we're going to get to him too. Now fast forward. Let's go to this because that's more on number one. More on number two is the Houston Texans. So the Texans, as I'm watching all this go on, because I was looking at this as research. So last week, Lovie Smith is on there. They played the Washington Commanders. And shout out to Commanders for how they stepped up and rebounded this season. Lovie Smith is, and he seemed frustrated. The journalist asked him. He said, there was more Redskins fans. Or not Redskins. I'm sorry. I'm stuck in that old way. There was more Washington Commander fans in the stands than there was for Houston. The fans are not showing up to the games. The team is bad. They're 1-8-1. Why do you think that's the problem? And he was frustrated. I feel bad for Lovie Smith. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it because he didn't do a great job in Illinois. They let him go up there. Look at the situation. So David Culley last year was the Houston Texans coach. I think they went 3-13 or 4-12 or whatever, 5-11. I don't know what they went last year. I forgot the record. He took in a mess that was with Deshaun Watson, and he dealt with David Mills. That was his guy that he had to work with. So once again, this goes back to the Patriot way. I think I left this guy out of here.
Yeah.
Didn't I leave him out of the Patriot way?
Mm-hmm.
Because he was the Nick Caserio, whatever this guy's name is from the Texans. He used to work for the Patriots. Ever since he has gotten to Houston, that team has went to crap. And Lovie Smith now took over because they got David Culley out of there. And what they're not saying to anybody about it is that initially what they were going to do was going to hire Josh McCown, who was teaching his son's football team, but it was going to cause such an uproar because there were more highly qualified black candidates, but they didn't want to do that. So they knew it was going to look bad. So what they did was they brought in David Culley, which he kept them respectable and competitive. And then they let him go because, like I said, they were going to go and get Josh McCown. But it caused so much uproar, so they got the defensive coordinator Lovie Smith to take over. And now they have Pep Hamilton. And they said, we're going to stick with David Mills. Because I guess for some reason, when I think about all the quarterbacks that were out there, i.e. Cam Newton, you thought David Mills was the guy you wanted to see. Could you build a franchise around, which we all knew from the get-go before you even started thinking about it? Hell no. What was you thinking? We could be general managers. I'm telling you with the moronic moves I'm watching. So let me make this clear. Now you have a black coach. You fired one black coach, brought in another black coach because it was just going to look embarrassing for what you was about to pull, right? Then on top of all that, you surround him with a team, him and Pep Hamilton too, who I feel is getting a bad rep. You surround him with David Mills. They got Pierce, who's the running back, who's an illmatic running back. You got Brandon Stokes. Is it Stokes? Wait, I gotta write his name down. I forgot. Brandon Cooks. I'm sorry. Brandon Cooks. You have Brandon Cooks as wide receiver. Illmatic receiver, right? That's all you got. And then the fan base is not showing up. The fan base is not showing up because, one, you surround them with a crappy team. There's no way in hell you thought you was going to do well with that. And let me tell you something else. Ever since Deshaun Watson wanted out, and for whatever reason, how all this leaked out, and I'm not saying Watson's innocent, but it's funny how all this stuff with Watson leaked out and how this team has went to just the trash bag of garbage that has went to. Now Lovie Smith is going to catch the rap. And now he's going to always have his name attached to this. This is basically a black head coach's moment. So when we do this and you break this down to elements, just to segments, just label this the black coach's dilemma. So I'm asking, please. I'm sorry.
Oh, definitely. I got you.
So let me go here, and we're going to work for this for minutes. It's going to be a nice little long one. So if y'all listening, just sit here and listen. So Lovie Smith, this is what he's going through. And now he's dealing with it in the journalist room. Journalists are probably none of them that look like us that understand why he's going through what he's going through.
There's a problem with black media and the NFL.
Oh, absolutely. You might see a sprinkle of 2 or 3 writers. That's a good day. That's a good day. If you see one in there, he's all by himself. Meanwhile, you got a bunch of kids named Johnny, Tommy, Bobby, maybe Ricky and Mike and the whole New Edition crew, the names that work for the school newspaper. So anyway, let me go here. Let me leave that alone. But you got him sitting at a press conference. David Mills is his quarterback. You asking him why the fans ain't showing up? They see what David Mills is. He's garbage. David Mills is garbage. He is garbage. He is garbage. He is like Oscar the Grouch with no talent. That's basically what I'm telling you. So I don't understand how y'all want to sit here and ask why the fans ain't showing up. You know why the fans ain't showing up. You know damn well why they ain't showing up. They don't want to see that. So that's number one. Now let's go on to number 2. Then we have who do I want to start? Let me go to the Carolina. Let's go to NFC South, where it is. Now you have number 2, which is Steve Wilkes. And I'm not saying that and he's doing a great job for what he's working with. Okay. So we all know what happened with Steve Wilkes. He was in Arizona for 1 year, went 3-13. Some of it was his fault, but not to the equivalent of he should have lost his job. Then Cliff Kingsbury comes in the next season, gets Kyler Murray, gets DeAndre Hopkins. Clearly Steve Wilkes didn't get that. And, he excels, and now we're seeing the karma come from that. But now he's in Carolina, where Matt Rule got fired. Even with that situation, Carolina is striving and they're playing. To be honest with you, they're I want to say, are they 5-8, 4-8? I think they're don't quote me, man. They're 3-8 or they're 4-8. They're one of the two, right? They're like 4-8, I think they're 4-8. Don't quote me, but they're 4-8. They're still in playoff contention. Ever since he made the change from Baker Mayfield to P.J. Walker, and then when P.J. Walker got injured and Sam Darnold was able to come back, not to diss them, but P.J. Walker and Sam Darnold aren't the top 10 quarterbacks in the league.
Okay.
If you notice, they're competing in every game, with the exception of one game, and that's Baker Mayfield was playing. So Carolina is competing in every game. And to be honest with you, I think they should be 5-6 or 4. If they hadn't lost that game to Atlanta because of the move, it wasn't bonehead, but it was just a mistake. One of the receivers, he scored a touchdown. Long story short, he took his helmet off. They made the kicker go back and kick further, and he missed the extra point. But it's a long story. Anyway, they're still competing. Carolina doesn't look like a mess. So even with Sam Darnold and P.J. Walker, he's still doing his thing. Steve Wilkes is doing a great job. I can assure you David Tupper's not going to keep him. You know what David Tupper's going to do? He's going to go find a guy that looks like him, that can't keep that has food stains over his shirt. Can you imagine the owner of an NFL team telling you that? I think if I was in the press room, I would just look at him and walk out the room. That's your decision making on a franchise? That's you are running an NFL-owned franchise. And your response to hiring Matt Rule, which we all knew was a great coach, I think he just needed a learning. This was his learning lesson for the NFL. He'll be back in the NFL. But I think the next time he comes back around, he will have more aware that this isn't college. You can't just rotate quarterbacks and rotate play. You can't do that. Moving on, though, I guarantee with the job that Wilkes could run the table, and he still won't keep him. Mm. And nobody will make a bet with me on that because they know I'm right. Okay, so that's number 2. Last is Todd Bowles, and I feel so bad for him in Tampa Bay. And even though I hate both these teams because I'm a diehard Falcons fan, Todd Bowles is, they just lost the game to Cleveland. Their defense is not what it is. I think they lost some pieces, and I think those pieces are catching up. I think Ndamukong Suh was a bad loss. I think the injuries of Chris Godwin being out, they went out and got Julio Jones. They got Russell Gage. These guys aren't really producing like they're supposed to.
Okay.
And maybe now I'm starting to realize why other teams let them walk back out the door.
It's fair.
The thing is with Todd Bowles, he doesn't have Tom Brady at his best. And people say, hey, you're going to blame Tom Brady's age. Well, yeah, that's part of it. But another part of it is we all know Tom Brady was 100% in. He was dealing with a divorce. And now there's some other reports coming out that she was over there rocking with her personal trainer, so we ain't going to go there.
Oh.
Yeah, pictures popped up for that. So clearly that's been going on. So I think that Brady, as much as he wants to say that wasn't a distraction or maybe now it's not, I think it was.
She touched it in Miami?
Yep, sure did. You know what I'm saying? She sure did.
If you're under 35, you're not going to get that reference.
Yeah, so my whole thing is like at the end of the day, I think that what's the point I was making that Todd Bowles doesn't have the team at 100%. He didn't have what Bruce Arians had, even though Bruce Arians turned the reins over to him. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about Tom Brady, the GOAT, this is clearly Tom Brady's last year. This is it. It has to be. He has Godwin that's just coming back from ACL. I don't know what's going on with Mike Evans. It just don't look good. They can't run the ball, you know. But Bowles is going to take the heat. Him and Byron Leftwich, and they're going to say, "See, this is why we don't hire black coaches." All 3 black coaches, with the exception of Tomlin, who's rebuilding with that kid Pickett, and you see, even though they're not winning games, they're competitive. So we see what's coming down the line with that. I wouldn't be shocked with Tomlin how he pulls miracles. He'll probably be in the playoffs next year. I wouldn't even blink an eye. But to go to show, my whole purpose of saying all this is that all these black coaches are getting a bad rap. And you know what they all got in common? They don't have a franchise quarterback. None of them have a franchise quarterback. None of them.
And you remember we used to talk about this a while ago, and it coincides what you said about the coaches. Now, remember, we used to have black quarterbacks, and what we used to say, they never give them weapons.
Right.
So it's like the peanut butter without the jelly.
Facts.
We have black, you know, it got better now with black quarterbacks. Obviously, we see what Lamar Jackson is doing,
right.
Patrick Mahomes, and so forth. But back in the days, we used to say, damn, Donovan McNabb, who are his weapons, you know, before
right.
T.O. and so forth.
Right.
Now we see these black coaches outside of Mike Tomlin, and we're saying, what are they surrounding them with?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's getting worse. And it's just like, you know, all these black coaches like David Mills. I'm going to say this again so everybody registers. David Mills. Jesus, Lord of mercy. David Mills, Sam Darnold, and 46-year-old Tom Brady. 45-year-old Tom Brady. I just want to let you say that that's the starting. So let's look at the top teams in each conference. Andy Reid has Patrick Mahomes. Tennessee, even though it's Tannehill and Mike Vrabel has Tannehill, he has Derrick Henry. That alone just tells you what you need to tell you, right? Buffalo, they have Josh Allen, right? Sean McDermott has Josh Allen. Cincinnati has Joe Burrow, and that guy Zach Taylor has Joe Burrow, right? And then in the NFC East, which all the teams are good, but if you want to pick the top team, I think it's Dallas is the top team. So Mike McCarthy has Dak Prescott. The Minnesota guy has Kirk Cousins, but also Kirk Cousins has Justin Jefferson out in Thielen. San Fran has Jimmy G. And there's what other conference am I missing? And there's the South, which is really bad. But you got Tom Brady. 45-year-old Tom Brady. I'm going to say that again. So when you look at all the top teams in the conference, even though Todd Bowles is in there, none of those 3 guys have franchise quarterbacks. Tomlin is the only one, and they got Pickett, who they got behind them. So I don't think Pittsburgh's going to look at him and say, well, we got to get rid of Tomlin because, you know, Pickett, you see he brought Pickett in, they're competitive. But what I'm saying to you is, when you look at the black coaches, they don't have a franchise quarterbacks. They don't. I don't understand why you even, what are you doing? That's what the Houston Texans thought. Listen, Lovie Smith. And I don't know why Lovie Smith takes it. We got to start just taking the L. We got to just start taking the L. If this is what I'm not coming in for an interview, man. If that's who you want me to sit there and deal with, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not. As much as and people say, well, hey, look at other teams. Look at other teams. Do you think those coaches get a timeline? Lovie Smith's gonna get fired at the end of this year. You think David Mills gonna still be there? I can assure you, whoever the head coach is, he's not gonna get David Mills. He's not gonna take it. Who else did I bring up? Steve Wilkes.
Yep.
You think when the new coach comes in, he's gonna say, do you think that Tupper's gonna when he goes in and talks to Tupper's, I think the general manager too. But let's just say Tupper had a general manager. The general manager is going to tell Tupper, if you want me to win this franchise, those guys got to go. Wilkes can't do that. So you're going to tell him like, yo, look, here's an opportunity. I don't know, but even if Wilkes runs the table, let's just say runs the table and they make the playoffs, Tupper still won't keep him. Mm-hmm. That's how bad it is. So I want to make this clear. I don't understand what more we need to see. It's bad. And it clearly is showing the bravado of the good old boy behavior. in the horrible situations that they in. I don't. What you doing? I don't understand it. So I'm just gonna say I said what I need to say. Like I said, I mean I'm gonna say these 3 names again: David Mills, 46-year-old Tom Brady, and Sam Darnold.
God bless.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to see how that's all gonna work out.
I don't see it. We got
nobody sees it.
We got any more on this segment?
No, I'm done with that. I mean, it's just pathetic. It's that pathetic.
You got Are we still in NFL land?
Yeah, if you want to go, yeah, you would. You got something you want to talk about in the NFL?
Nah, I wanted to spend a chunk of time in hip hop.
Okay. Did you want to also? Because I know with sports we was talking about sports. Did you want to talk at least one more sports topic?
Well, what's it on? What you got?
It's just the WBB with ALB.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So we we've covered football. We stopped once Rhode Island and Albany both were eliminated from playoff contention. So we briefly been going into the Albany women. Not briefly. We've been at them full time.
Okay, so we're back. For context, we're back in college basketball.
Yeah. And
on the women's side.
I just wanted to show love to them. There's some players I want to shout out. There's some things I want to shout out and be real quick because I know we did the whole time thing. To kind of give there's one team I want to shout out that stuck out from last year, and I got to say their names. Oh my God, and I forgot their names. Let me just say this: the University of Georgia women's basketball team. I want to shout them out.
Okay.
I specifically want to shout out Diamond Battles. I want to say Brittany.
Was she from Florida that transferred?
UCF. Yep. UCF. University of Central Florida.
I remember her.
Her. We all do. She
was nice. Throwing passes.
Illmatic. Yeah, illmatic. I mean the I don't want to call her a kid. The young woman, her character, how she carries herself, how she took it to UConn. Her, Brittany. There's also the guard there. Their names are slipping my mind right now because we've been covering. We went through so much, and I apologize. I will call your names out the next episode, but I want to salute them because I'm happy that they're getting the opportunity. Now UCF, they got a little shine because they won their champion. They won their tournament. They won their conference tournament last year. They went into the tournament, beat Florida, and then they went into UConn. And to be honest with you, they lost because of the officiating. They ain't got to say that, but I'm going to say it.
Okay.
Because they got too much class to even blame it on anybody. But let's just call it what it was, the officiating, right? So I'm glad that Diamond gets the shine that she gets. I'm glad that Brittany gets the shine that she gets. I'm glad that also the other guard that transferred from over there gets the shine they get. Shouts out to Katie Abraham Anderson because I think she deserves it because we all know she's from UAlbany and what she had to build here. And what she started building was a winning culture. And she built something by the time we got over here, it was still here. When she went to UCF, she did the same thing. And she went and she doesn't hide from the monster, which was UConn. And it was USF, I think. So she doesn't hide from it. You get what I'm saying? Same thing. Now she's in Georgia, where it's already, she's the top. There's also another team in there by the name of South Carolina with Dawn Staley.
Yep.
That's the next dragon she got to slay. So, and I don't want to make it sound like that, but I love to see that they are all on that stage because I saw had they came back to UCF, they were about to be on that stage regardless.
Yep.
Now they're automatically on that stage. They don't have to beat teams from. They're just automatically before the season start. The stage is already on. Whereas I felt they was at UCF. The stage wasn't on them, but it was going to go on them the minute they was going to get that big win. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So just shouts out to them. To piggyback off that, because I know we limited on time, I want to talk about UAlbany women, and I'm just going to be brief about it.
Okay.
So shouts out to UAlbany women. Right now, the record is 3-4 at press time. They just came back from the tournament from Las Vegas. I think that, and I'm going to elaborate on this more, I think that Coach Mullen, who last year won the championship, which salute to her because
for the American East.
Yeah, we weren't doing the podcast by when this all happened.
Not last year,
but salute. She won the American East tournament, and last year for everything that she's been through. Salute to her, because I think when she came into this, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this for Coach Mullen. What was big about her, and what was big to see how she won that conference. She didn't come into a program. People say, well, the program was strong. It's no disrespect to any of the players that was there when she got there, but the coach that was there before her, who's now at Boston College, who was a great coach because she was able to lead that team to conference championship, right, and get into the tournament. She was able to get into a car that was built, that was built to do what it did, and she got in the car and she drove, and she kept it very well driven and kept it well up to date. Coach Mullen didn't have that opportunity. Coach Mullen worked with the pieces that was left with the car, and she had to build upon those pieces, and to see it all come to fruition last season was a great thing. I think this year, what was a great thing which is a plus and a benefit for her, all her players are returning, and they're all more seasoned and they're all more veteran, and I think that they have the best opportunity to win the American East tournament. Now, with that being said, they're going to have some competition on the way. I think they will be there in the end, but there's a team out there by the name of Bryant that they came in, and last year, if you looked at what they did in the NEC, they made it to the championship game. They started off slow last season, and then they came in strong at the end, right? So they're built for this. They've shown that. And there's another team by the call of Binghamton that nobody's paying attention to.
We are.
That is doing very well, and that it seems like with Coach Ord, COVID slowed her team down on what she was doing, because when she got there, the first 2 years she moved up to where she wanted the team to be, but then COVID hit. So I think these past 2 years of them having to stop and start the season, and then the next season they're playing through the season, it seems like this year they've picked up and they have more seasoned players. And it seems like just from the way they're playing, the bench five can be starting five. It's like UAlbany. UAlbany's whole team could start anywhere else. If you take UAlbany's players that sit the bench, they could be anywhere else. And they don't even really sit the bench. They just play a certain amount of minutes. It's not really, there's no bench players on UAlbany's team. They're all ill. From Cooper to Hengerstein. If I'm messing up your name, I apologize. To Worth, to Cooper. Did I say Cooper?
Yeah, you said Cooper.
Okay,
right.
Cooper, to Grace Heaps, to Lucia de Cortez.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably butchering her name. I hope she forgives me. There's Hane. I'm missing somebody else here.
Well,
but
one got injured.
Fatima Lee.
Yeah, Fatima.
They're all Illmatic, every one of them. So they all can play anywhere else, and that's what I think gives them the edge over everybody. We all know Maine will be there in the end. I don't even have to say anything. That's Amy Vachon. She's gonna always have a team in there at the end. And if any team like Binghamton or Bryant or any of the top four teams, the top other three teams other than Maine, if you want to get to the game, whether it's a championship game or win the tournament, it's gonna have to go through Maine.
Mm-hmm.
So even if UAlbany is the team to beat and UAlbany's hosting or whatever and they're number one team, you're still gonna have to go through Maine to get to them. So I just wanted to run that through real quick. We will have a basketball preview coming. It's just we've been so engulfed with football and everything else that we do, because contrary to these other platforms that clearly are not doing anything or saying anything or being who they claim to be, that's who we are and what we do.
Just think of lack of creativity in media, and I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Shout out to all the teams in the American East Conference that we cover, and just American East in general, because it's a very good conference for both the men and women.
Yeah.
I think it's about to start shaping up towards the end of December.
Mm-hmm.
Teams are dealing with Knicks and Knacks, and you're going to have some players come back, and then we're getting closer and closer to conference play. Mm-hmm. That's when we're going to see what team is going to stick out and rise to the top. Mm-hmm. If UAlbany returns to their health, builds their confidence, I have no doubt that when we get to conference play, they're going to be one of those top teams again.
Morgan Haney, that was the name.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one of the names. I forgot.
Yeah, so I got them two being at the top of the American East in basketball. Shout out to all the teams and all the student athletes.
Facts. We're going to elaborate more on the UAlbany women's team and everything. I'm going to go over that whole thing next episode.
All
next
right.
episode. We're gonna elaborate on all of it. We had a lot to catch up on today. And
Definitely, man. We back after the holidays.
We haven't even scratched the surface. This was just stuff that we just had it all like scribbled down and was picking apart.
This is your after the holiday podcast, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so where we going next, man?
You said you wanted to touch hip hop, right?
Yeah. You know, this is a hip hop platform, so we cover a lot of sports content. If you follow us from sports, this is your time to exit or stay. But we're going to touch on some hip hop, man.
Okay.
Hip hop is our foundation. So there's a lot of things going on, a lot of dope music, a lot of topics. So I want to start here. Prior to my birthday, NAS dropped a dope project. And the reason why I think it's important to talk about Nas's project, because he was also in a discussion of pop culture, unfortunately, with 21 Savage, mention his name, kind of mentioning whether Nas is relevant to the young people, and then that spiraled into something else. But before that comment, Nas dropped another dope project, King Disease 3, produced by Hit Boy. So I'm be honest, he's 3 for 3, but he's aging in music like fine wine. Like the second half of his career, I don't think there's going to be studies about, I'm going to say like this, there's going to be studies about Nas' career 20 years down the line in colleges when we talk about hip hop music.
Right.
We got other greats who are up in their age. We could talk about Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, who is continuing to make great music in the hip hop lane in their late 40s outside of Jay-Z and him.
No, Fat Joe ain't even making music.
I'm talking about like complete projects that you're like, damn, this can win a Grammy.
Nobody. I don't see anybody.
So I'm digesting this piece of art slowly.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to binge, you know. The first time I kind of skimmed through it, but I'm like, yo, I want to sit with these songs and digest it. I want to say track 4, Michael and Quincy. My God, I'm trying to use the correct adjective. Like that personification, like just the name of the song. Like, again, you got to understand music, how Quincy Jones, the great producer that he was, and what he did for Michael Jackson and the songs that him and Michael put together for that time period. For him and Hit Boy to put a song titled Michael and Quincy on his album. Like there's not there's adjectives I just did not come into head right now.
Right.
Like that just personifies their relationship and what they're doing in hip hop culture.
Right.
They're not trying to say they are Michael and Quincy, but the impact they're having on each other at this present moment while they're making this masterpiece of art. My God. What do you think about the album so far?
Illmatic. Illmatic, like Nas's first joint, Illmatic. You know what I'm saying? I like it. It just like I can relate to it, but the younger generation can relate to it too. So it kind of brings us together. We need, like, the reason why I love the project, because we need projects like that. Just like when Dipset and G-Unit went at it. It's like we need to see that, because I think we forget about like New York. Like New York has fell off. So I think it's like with that, like when they did the verses and he was playing the music, let me tell you this, and I'm going to put it all together. When you hear that, right, you be like, at first when I heard it, I was like, yo, I don't know how they going to do a verses, man. Like, it ain't going to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know like how many bangers they got. And then they start playing, you like
that classic mixtape music.
Shit. Like,
all them special
I forgot
verses.
about that. Yeah, I forgot all about this. The R&B joints, the street joints, the New York records, all the mixtape music. You know it, because you Dipset is kind of embedded into the vibe, the environment you come from, the culture, the age, that time, right? D Block is kind of more me too, and yours too, but it's just like when Nas's album, like, you know, sometimes if you think they slipping, that reminds you that they not.
30 Summers.
Yeah. That reminds you that they're not.
That 30 Summers track on there, my God, like when he's saying 30 Summers, he means 30 Summers.
Yeah, man. That's crazy.
You know, and I'm just glad that a piece of art like this is coming out for multiple reasons outside of the giving New York an identity. I like to see hip hop grow old.
Facts.
And other genres, whether it's R&B or whatever, we've seen their artists, no matter what color, what ethnicity, we've seen the artists get old.
Yeah.
60 years old, sell out arenas and drop an album and do all this. I would like to see somebody other than Jay-Z be popping at 48, 49, 50, drop a classic album.
Yeah, I'm waiting for 50 to do a project.
You know, so
he's gonna do one too. I can see it coming.
While Nas is doing it, it's gonna encourage other artists to get with dope producers. Like, this is the format. You want, and this is gonna lead, after I talk about this, I'm gonna talk about another underground album and production and so forth. Sit with a producer. I know it's, you know, trendy to get 10 producers on an album, and I'm not knocking that. But lock in with one producer that formats your sound and brings the best out of you. And that's what I'm feeling like Hit Boy's doing in Nas, because everybody, if you're a hip hop head and you're a fan of Nas, everybody knows what's been a running joke about Nas: the lack of production prior to Hit Boy. Yo, he's a dope artist, but some of his projects is because half of the production puts us to sleep.
Yeah.
Now it's like, yo, Michael and Quincy. I'm gonna keep saying that. He is, you know, I guess that's an analogy. He is his Quincy.
Yeah.
And the way I'm listening to this, how we know they ain't got 3 new projects in the tuck?
That's crazy.
Because they recorded that over COVID. Like they said, they was sitting in during COVID and put that together. They, for all we know, they can, yo, we got 3 other new installments. We about to kill them over the next 5 years.
Right.
So congratulations to Nas, man. This is a dope piece of art for hip hop. I'm gonna keep digesting this slowly, man, because I don't want to miss nothing. No bars that go on over my head. But yo, this is like, hip hop needs to be here. We talked about this in the past, where the subject matter and what's going on in the culture with the young kids dying and beefing and so forth and so forth. So I'm glad that we get a nice project like this, man. Anything else to add?
And to piggyback off that ground, we're talking about that and the stupidity of the senseless violence. Because I think something popped off even after our last podcast. I don't know if we're gonna talk about that. I don't know, but yeah, the TO.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so, but that we, you know, but the on a higher note with Nas, we needed that, and it needs to be pushed on all platforms. That's if social media don't take it down, because that's another thing too, man. Like, y'all gotta stop being like greedy and selfish. Like, y'all, like, you can't put this on your social media page. Really? I mean, like, what? It's not like I'm collecting a check off for putting a video clip up. What are you doing, man? Yeah. Like, wait, come on. So yeah, Nas brought it back on this. That's dangerous, man. That's dangerous. That album is thorough. The joints, every time I keep hearing something, like when we be taking our trips, you know what I'm saying? We rocking out to Rhode Island, or we rocking out to Syracuse and whatever, man. I be playing, I hear a Nas joint on there, and it be bumping. You know what I mean? So it's dope, man. That Thun thing is insane.
Yo, he threw a little line in there. Yeah, I think, is that the one we talked about, Jay-Z?
Yeah. He just gets it, boy. Woo. That's what we need. And it's, you know what? Let me make this clear too. And it's not a shot at the younger generation, but it's creativity, and it's something that, like, yo, man, like you know, you, as the one thing is me just being an older head in hip hop, you know, as a hip hop fan, things that men can relate to, and that men seeing, and be honest with you, no disrespect to nobody else, I ain't listening to no, you know, the mumbling and the man purse and all. I ain't don't want to hear all that, man. Like, you, this is like that. The thing about hip hop, and I don't want to sound like an old head again, when you heard the music, you could see and hear yourself. And I think we kind of got away from that. There ain't no way when them dudes is mumble on the record that these kids is coming out here and be like, yo, I can hear myself in there. No, you can't. With this album and this music, you can. Facts, you can. No.
Definitely. So another thing happened in hip hop, and I'm gonna talk about this on another podcast. because we're trying to cover all aspects. So
Yeah, and we got a lot to catch up on.
I'm deep into battle rap.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an important part of hip hop culture.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say last week, there's a battle rap league called RBE, Rare Breed Entertainment, run by ARP. He did a dope card with Closure too. Go to the website, Rare Breed Entertainment. Go watch the pay-per-view. They got video on demand. Dope battles. NAS was on there. He battled. That was dope. 40 bars, went at Ill Will. I watched that. I give that to 40 bar. Like, I'm gonna break all these battles down in future vlogs. Jag came back. Jag went at it with Show Off. Them two put on a classic.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to battle rap, because battle rap is in a great space, and it's bringing out what we need in hip hop outside of the mainstream. And I don't like to say that because, you know, it's in a genre by itself, but battle rap, the way it's at right now, it's in its purest form, and it's bringing out the competition. And I get to see it, NAS, who maybe the industry might have rolled off a while ago from that Puffy situation, but he's still a dope MC. You know, so in future vlogs, I'm gonna break down these battles and get my thoughts on the rounds and their performances and so forth. I'm gonna touch on Takeoff last because I want to touch on one more album briefly.
No, go ahead.
So, over the holiday, a lot of music is dropped. We're in upstate New York, but you know, from New York in general. So, Votto dropped a dope project, Long Run Volume 3. Dave East dropped a project. I'm still in tune. I'm listening to that. Fred Money, who's J.R. Ryder's younger brother, dropped a project. Shout out to him. And the project that I'm gonna talk about is from a cat from upstate New York called Great God. Used to go by the name of Taj. I don't know if he still goes by Taj or not, but I think it's important to touch on these projects because people say, "Oh, underground rap," but to me, this is what we listen to. Because what's not mainstream is what we're in tune with. More importantly, Great God dropped a project called Snow Day. So the reason why I think it's important to highlight a project like this, one, I got a rep for upstate New York. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole bars region going on. Buffalo, Albany, Rochester, and Syracuse. So remember I was getting at you because you collect those DVDs?
Yes.
So as old heads.
Yeah.
Who went through that era with the DVDs. The reason why I'm bringing him up, you had a DVD that you let me hold one time, and I want to say it was an installment of a Come Up DVD. This one he was going by Taj. So had an installment of a Come Up DVD, and I'm going to tie it in. And there was a specific part where he was talking about trying to get into the industry mainstream, but it was always somebody blocking him. And he said, yo, it's not the artist. It's always like they mans or they manager. So he was like, yo, I'm just going to keep it real. I got a plate for your artist. So he had his money out. He was like, yo, you know, I heard, you know, Fat want 15,000 for a verse. Put 15,000 on the plate. It's like, yo, I got a plate for you. Yo, Young Jeezy, what you want, 20 for a verse? Put 20,000. Yo, I got a plate for you. Ross, what you want for a verse? Like, he had like a few 100,000. You know, and basically he was saying, yo, sometimes it's not the artist.
Right.
It's they managers, they right-hand man that always want to stand next to you. If you see this, you're going to remember what I'm talking about when you was talking on that DVD. So he dropped a project, and I brought it because I believe in supporting artists. I know we like to stream, and I'm all for streaming, but if an artist want to charge $20, I'll pay $20 for the art because I want to see them make it.
Right.
And I listened to it. I'm like, yo, this is dope. And the reason why I'm also bringing him up, because we give a lot of credit to what's going on in Buffalo with Benny the Butcher and all them cats.
Yeah.
But he was working, if you remember, early 2000s. Taj was bringing that light to Syracuse before that. And some may argue that the way he was grinding and mixing with the industry, he kind of brought a light to look at Griselda. I'm not saying he's responsible.
Right.
Because they did their thing. Oh, sidebar. Hold on. Engineer just gave me something. So real quick. This is real time. My engineer Tyler just hit me up with a dope screenshot. Nas is doing a song with 21 Savage. So I guess that's parody.
I like that. I
which
like
is
that.
dope,
Good look, Tyler.
Which is dope because that shows that black men can, dust off the jokes and work together.
Yeah.
So that was a real move from Nas, a real big brother move.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to Taj and Greek God.
Yeah.
So some may argue that his busting moves in the industry kind of put the light up to upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not taking nothing away from what Benny and them guys is doing, but got to give his flowers where flowers is due. So I'm just going to name a few of my songs off the album that I like, that I think that was pretty dope. Just give me a second. So I'm going to name this song and I'm going to name a producer, and you tell me why I named a producer.
Okay.
So he has a song on the album called Bag Lady. And I'm going to break down why I like this song, the production, and why it's so relevant.
Okay.
The producer on the song is called Aguilar. Why did I say Ag? You tell me what you know about Aguilar.
It's that Purple City Bird Gang too, right?
Now,
that's the movement, yeah.
He's responsible for the foundation, in my humble opinion, for the foundation of what Purple City did back in the early 2000s. Yeah. And he had a career before them. He was producing and writing songs in the 90s. But everybody infamously knows him as the foundation with Purple City Bird Gang.
Right.
Quiet as it kept, man. He's been working as a producer. He's on Gully City's, I said Gully City, I'm
Gully
sorry.
TV.
That's some Albany stuff. He's on Gully TV Pillmatic album. He dropped his own music, but then he collaborated with Great God on this. Oh my, the production on that. When I talked about Nas and Hitmaker, how the way they pull from each other, and how the way Hit Boy made Nas better. Aguilar and Great God, to me, there was many producers on that album, but from a production standpoint, from a song standpoint, Aguilar brought something out of Great God that made that song that much better. Now, the subject matter of this song is, it is what it is. It's street content, but it was talking about the other side of the game. He was saluting the women from the side, that held the bag, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
This is the flip side. You know what I'm saying? You kept the kids upstairs while I was doing this, so tomorrow we going shopping for a G-Wagon.
Yeah.
He saluted the bag lady. That's just from my civilian ears. But, great project overall. He dropped a project earlier called Wolf Season, Monster Project. If you like the underground gritty sound, Wolf Season from him was nice. But the follow-up to that, I'm looking to hear more music from him. I obviously said on my social media, I hope him and Aguilar keeps collaborating, and I hope they do a whole project together. Like a song like that, like I played it 20 times. I'm like, yo, if them two lock in and do an EP together, from an underground perspective, dope. I got more to say on that, and I'll probably, in another vlog, probably next week, really go through more songs off that album. But that's my favorite track off that Bag Lady, produced by Aguilar. And hopefully you guys keep collaborating. But Great God, a.k.a. Taj, he's doing this thing for upstate New York. Keep doing your thing, because when you win, the other regions in upstate New York win. And if we become a stronger upstate New York, now we can start getting back to the old New York. Because you know what I also want to say? There was no drill music on the album. And I'm not saying nothing towards any other artists, because Vado didn't have drill music. Dave East didn't have drill music. So I like when New York artists is still keeping it New York. And that's what I'm hearing when I listen to Great God and that Snow Day album and Vado and Dave East. But for right now, I'm tuning in to Snow God from Syracuse. That album from Great God from Syracuse, and that Bag Lady produced by Aguilar, man. Y'all need to cook up a whole album. You got any music you tuned into?
Just the Nas. It's just Nas right now. That's what.
And according to the engineer, he's locked in with 21 Savage.
That's good to know, man. You know, definitely Nas a joint. That's what's got my ear right now.
So I wanted to end off because we got a few minutes, overtime. But unfortunately, we always talk about the flip side to hip hop. When stuff goes wrong. Unfortunately, obviously, everybody knows if you tune into hip hop, we lost Takeoff. Hip hop culture lost Takeoff. Atlanta lost Takeoff. More importantly, his family lost him as a person. And I guess this is never going to get old. But from somebody who everybody around him said he was the quiet one in the group. He was the one that was so laid back, respectful to everybody. I don't like. Let me let you chime in. Where as a culture do we go from here? Because before, when stuff happens, it's the streets. It's the streets. He wasn't the streets.
Yeah,
he wasn't the streets.
What was it? What was he even over? They didn't even know it is over.
He was down in Houston, Texas. Him and Quavo was just mingling with the community. Words started shouting. Jay. I don't want to say Jay Prince, but his camp started going back and forth with that camp, and then words turned into a funeral.
But Jay Prince ain't get touched. Yeah. Neither his son did. Yeah. So
his son Junior.
Yeah.
And
so
I just I didn't want to bring that up out the clear.
I don't know. I wish there was a commission, but like if you got a problem with somebody, you gotta go and talk to the commission before you can make a move like that. I don't understand what
allegedly the shooter's in cuffs. Somebody who was on parole or had a charge.
Some ignorant, stupid, MFA, yeah.
And I keep saying it. We keep. And let me not sound like let me not make this a classist statement, because I don't want this to sound the wrong way. These people with nothing to lose keep taking out people who have such a major impact in their communities.
Yeah.
Millionaires who are feeding families.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like a classist when I say that. Look at the person who killed Nipsey Hussle. Does he look like he can feed one person?
No, because he's a grown-ass man that calls himself shitty cuz. Let that sit there.
Yeah.
He deserves to be in jail for life.
The person who killed the young
sit
kid.
His ass right there.
The young kid who killed young Dolph.
Yeah.
He can't even afford the attorney.
He had no purpose, no nothing.
This is what I'm making. These people who are killing, and again, I don't want to make this sound like a classist, elitist statement, but for some reason, like our entertainers who are feeding whole communities, who are worth millions, who are feeding their families and employing people, keep getting taken out by people who can't afford bail. And I hate to say this, but this is why prior to the internet, there was a mystique about rappers because you never saw them.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't get next to them. You didn't know where LL Cool J went shopping for his sneakers.
Yeah.
You didn't know where this person got their haircut at.
Right.
So now, I use, as a fan of hip hop, you'd be like, if I saw this artist, I want to take it. Now I don't want to, because they're going to be nervous. It's going to be an awkward moment. Why does this grown man want a picture with me? Mm-hmm. No, just being a fan of hip hop, you just might, you my favorite rapper. They don't want to hear that now. They don't want, and now I don't blame them. So now it's even messing up the authenticity of enjoying hip hop. Because you got a whole bunch of ignorant people that just don't know how to act. For what? There's no cause behind it.
This is probably a wrong message. Let me make this clear. It's probably the just evil side of me. Like it don't be making no difference. Like you just doing it for no reason, man.
There's
You're
not a
doing
reason.
it for no reason. And at the end of the day, let me just say, as an older person, it makes me look at you goofy, because now you're gonna sit in jail for the rest of your life and you don't have no reason why.
No purpose.
Right? I mean, the guy killed Young Dolph. What did you gain from it?
Clout, nothing more. And now they're tying in other people. They're finally tying in the people who orchestrated the alleged hit.
Yeah.
And there's some grown 40-year-olds, some young 20-year-olds.
Let me say this. I hope the person that killed Nipsey Hussle, person that killed Young Dolph, the people that were involved in Takeoff, I hope that the most horrible things in jail can happen to them. And I hope that something happens to your family and you sitting in there while it happens. Maybe that's what needs to happen to maybe a message you need to send. I want you to, for people that are not understanding, that's just the evil side of me. I couldn't, like, you couldn't take out my family member. Like, you're going to get it, son. I'm going to do everything financially possible in my power to make sure somebody gets you in that cell. I don't care who knows. I'm going to make sure that you're not going to enjoy breathing, right? That's just one element of it. The positive, mature side of me says, all right, what was you thinking? And I want young black males especially to sit there and say this. You are not going to gain anything by doing something that's stupid. I want you to think about all the pain you are putting on a family. What was the kid that just got shot?
Over words.
Or just got gunned down in L.A. in that waffle spot?
PNB Rock.
Wasn't his daughter there?
Daughter and wife. And
Really?
Did you see, because we didn't follow up on this, but did you hear the news? It was a son who was like 16, 17. It was his father, and it was his stepmother. I'm going to say that again slowly. 17-year-old, his father who was in the car with him, and then the mother who was probably the getaway, I don't know, the person who, I don't know, threw the gun away or whatever. A whole family. Are you kidding me?
And I hope they all go to jail for life. Sit your ass in jail for life. You need to stay in jail for the rest of your life. You don't ever need to come home. You never have any rehabilitation. The only sympathy I have is for that young man that was 16 that did it. People say, how can you have sympathy? Because I'm pretty sure, look at the leadership. Let me tell you from personal experience, and I'm not going to say any names, but from family members I've seen family members that had all the potential in the world, that were better athletic than me, more athletic, smarter business-wise than me, but because they were raised by a scumbag that had no desire, it was never going to be anything but the scumbag-ass person he was, they didn't achieve anything, not to the level that they should have. So I don't want to say didn't achieve anything, but not to the level. And the people that were not raised by that person, they seem to be better. They seem to be better individuals. So for that kid, maybe he need to be rehabilitated, but those parents need to sit in jail for the rest of their life. They don't ever need to come home.
The
stepmother too, she was down with it.
Yeah. No, I'm not excusing her, but I'm saying the father, you as a,
you
was around 30.
Life in jail.
Yeah.
Do life in jail.
Somehow you told your son.
You are going to die in that jail cell. That's where you need to stay till you take your last breath.
And that's what I'm looking at with these young men who are committing these homicides. You know, now 50 has a show that he's doing, homicides of hip hop. And I'm just like, we're going, like before it used to be fights and getting jumped, fights to getting stabbed. Like there was like a medium. There was fights and then maybe a shooting. And then now we're creeping up to words to shooting. Because now they had that they had the, I don't want to keep harping on it because it's family out there, but they got the video of the incident. It was words. Yeah. It was words. Went from words to shooting. Like that kid never stood a chance. Never stood a chance.
Whoever's involved in you go to jail. You need to sit in jail for the rest of your life.
And then, so now, somebody has to bury their loved one because y'all got into some words. Not into beef, just words. Then somebody gonna be on social media, well, that's just the way the streets is.
Not the streets, man. It's a bunch of ignorant clowns that can't do anything. They're not about anything but that. Because they have no talent. They're never gonna be anything. I'm telling you from personal experience. I'm gonna say this again, I don't care. They're probably gonna know who I'm talking about, whoever's in my immediate close circle. I've seen people being raised by degenerate scumbags that are not a man and decide that had all the talent in the world, but didn't achieve to the levels that they could have because they were raised by a scumbag that knew that he was never going to be anything, and he brought everybody down with him that he could. That's all I'm going to say. So what I'm saying is that when I'm listening to these kids, let me make this clear. Wallow and Gilly talk about this all the time. I think we talked about this previous podcast. You have too much to gain and you have everything to lose.
Yep.
Stop losing your freedom in life over a stupid argument. If they want to sit there and look cool and look tough, let me tell you something. They look like clowns at the end of the day. I used to be one of those kids that used to like want to wild out and do what I was doing, right? And I was succeeded at a lot of situations that I put myself in. I maybe came from a different cloth. Some of these cats, and let's be real about this on another angle real quick, they come out here talking and doing what they going to do, what they doing. But when it come time to when the lawyers come and they got the time on you, you're going to change your whole perspective. It's not worth it. What is cool is being a great grandfather and having your kids around you and building generational wealth and building a strong community and doing that. Do you think that Jewish people do that with their families? Do you think that Italian people do that with their family? Do you think that Spanish people do that with their family? They focus on building for the future. We seem to be building on being cool and punking people and try to take from our own people. Mind you, we don't do it to nobody else's culture but ours. So all I'm going to keep saying is those buffoons who are preaching that need to sit in jail. You can sit in jail and work for 25 cents an hour like you want to do with your stupid behind, and good luck with that. Go sit in jail. Go to the precinct and tell them, I don't want my freedom anymore. You're gunning down your own people for what? For a chain. That's never going to make sense to me.
And this situation wasn't about no jewelry. I'm going to say it again. Now, obviously, we saw other, unfortunate situation with rappers being robbed, and so you didn't gain no money. It wasn't even a robbery. It wasn't even a beef. It wasn't even fighting. That person that's now got caught for the gun is about to sit in jail over words.
This is the last thing I'm going to say, and I keep saying this, and I'm going to say this. Dame, it kind of struck me now, but I've always kind of felt the same way Dame has felt. At this stage in your life, right, even if you got a bunch of young dudes around you, you kind of really don't know what's going on because you're too busy trying to build generational wealth. You don't have time. Could you imagine us being somewhere and having an argument with somebody and hanging them upside down by their feet because they said something we ain't like? This. Let me say something. I ain't gonna put nobody's names out there. We had to drop on a few people that was talking tough, and I had to drop on them, and it could have went bad fast for them. They had no clue what was about to happen. I'm too busy doing this. I can't be bothered with you. And it's not going to get me any benefits. It's not going to give me any benefits. It's going to get me locked up in jail. It's not a win. It's never going to be a win.
Let me bring up a personal situation, and then we'll close out.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you just said, when we started this media 2010, there was a situation like a year or two prior to that, and I won't bring up the person name because we both
moved on. Yeah.
So, long story short, situation happens with me. Somehow my cousin gets involved. It was right before we were all supposed to gather in the same car and go to New York City.
Yeah.
And he didn't know that I had a problem with this person that was supposed to be in the same car. Long story short, he pulled me to the side as my elder cousin and said, yo, you need to think about this. This can go this way, but then this is what's going to be the consequences.
Mm.
I was young. I was 20 years old. I had to sit there and say, you know what? My cousin is making sense. If I do this, this is going to be the outcome. Mm. Do I want this outcome or do I want to move on to bigger and better things? Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, we moved on to bigger and better things. And that wasn't the only, we got into other situations.
Yeah.
With other people talking crazy and tough. When we were both young.
Yep.
Because I'm 36 now, so I'm talking about when we were 21, 22, 25. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about over a decade ago. Hell, even now, somebody, wants to talk tough on the internet, calling the phone and doing all that prank, cyber, whatever you call it. God bless. So
yeah, which they
I always sit and think now as being an old head, I just turned 36 last week. I'm seeing gray hair. I'm seeing my kids get older. And as he just said, that's the cool thing.
Yeah.
I know some people get that midlife crisis and start freaking out. Yo, I'm getting older. I'm enjoying getting old.
Yeah.
We see all the time, even outside of the killing, you can get a rare disease. You just don't know when it's your time.
Yeah.
So while God is blessing you to be young and healthy, enjoy it. I'm in my 30s. You're your age. We both have our life, our health. We're both fathers. That's dope to me. Unless you are imposing physical harm at the time. I'm not talking about you're saying you're going to harm me. Unless you're actually about to harm me, I got no qualms with you. I'm not about to beef with you on the internet or even in real life.
Yeah.
Unless you actually swing on me or pull a weapon on me where I have to defend myself or my family.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk away and choose my family, choose my freedom, choose to get old every single time.
Right. No, I echo that. You know, I just don't understand it, and the stupidity that goes into it. Like nobody wins. Nobody wins. So I like I said, and then
The prisons win and the people who own the cemetery win.
we gotta stop being against each other, stick together. Can I ask you something? This is the one thing I want to say. Whoever pulled that trigger, they didn't own anything. I don't even know why you beefing with them. I'd be beefing with somebody with something that I'm trying to own that they're trying to take from me. I have no concerns or qualms. It's just like with Takeoff. I'm one of the owners publishing. That's what I worried about. I wouldn't be worrying about trying to take that young man's life. And if we're just arguing, we're just arguing.
He wasn't even in an argument. He was literally, the story was and I don't want to rehash it because his family's out there. He was literally in the background, stood up for 2 seconds, caught bullets. So he wasn't even beefing. It was an argument between two other people. We have to stop making words turn into funerals. That's what I'm going to bring up about this topic.
Yeah.
We have to figure out how to de-escalate situations as grown adult men. Stop turning words into funerals and bringing trauma on the families. That's all I got on this topic.
Agreed.
Yo, shout out to everybody tuning in with us who's going to listen to this on the playback. As always, we got dope content from CAA, college football, college basketball, men's and women's, fashion, hip hop, political events, current events, everything, man. Just stay tuned in with us. Episode 12.
More coming.
Episode 12 in the books, and when we come back, we got a lot more coming with basketball and different multiple conferences, both men and women. Got a lot of dope basketball content. Hopefully I can, link up with some battle rappers to bring y'all that dope hip-hop content. Got a lot of stuff in store, man.
Facts.
Shout out to everybody, man. Finish enjoying the holidays. Christmas is coming up.
Yep.
Stay blessed. As always, Son of a Jones, one half of Enveonline.
He's our Johnson, other half.
We out.